Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sage 50 Cloud Pastel Accounting Topic webinar. My name is Joanne Barnard, and I'll be your host and panelist for this session. Guys, what we're going to be discussing is how to set up the customer overdue interest in Pastel Accounting. Pastel Accounting is the program that I'm currently logging into. So guys, I've logged into the demo, but basically what is overdue interest? Overdue interest is what you are going to charge your customers when they have exceeded their terms. So that's what the overdue interest is. So basically, if we come to our processing and to our terms, and we can see monthly terms or day-based terms, you will set those terms up, and it's terms you give to your customer, where you will say to your customer, you have 30 days in which to pay me, or you have current 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, and you can choose, is that period, is that from date of invoice? You set up those terms. Now the 30 days would be in the period. So if, for example, you process an invoice in November, they will have until the end of December to pay you. So the period would have been November. They then have an entire period in which to pay you, whether it is on the 1st of December or whether it is on the 15th. To my knowledge, if I'm incorrect, I do apologize. Day-based terms, that is where you can actually specify when you set up the terms. You can then, for example, specify 30 days, either from last day of the period, as I said. So you process on the 1st of November, it's going to give you 30 days from the last day of the period. So it sees 30th of November, goes, okay, cool. You've got until the 30th of December, for example. However, if you go from date of invoice, you process on the 1st of November, it's going to give you 30 days. So i.e. the 30th of November before it's seen as overdue. So you can set those up here, and you can then set your customers to be day-based. So based on those terms, you would then go and set up your overdue interest. And you do that by going to Setup, Customers, Control, and you enter your password. Going into the Setup menu means that you do need access to that menu. So you either need to be a supervisor or you need to have been given that menu access. You also need to have sole access mode. Sole access mode means that no one else can be logged into the company while you're doing this, and you can't have any other windows. So you can't be on Edit Customers or have your processing window open. All windows within Pastel, within that company, need to also be closed. So only the Setup, Customers, Control will open, and you'll see sole access mode. So no one will be able to open this company at this point either. What you can then do is you can go and look at your setup. So here, if we look interest account, annual percentage rate, and minimum interest amount. This is your overdue interest. It's just called interest, but basically you will set up an interest account. Now, normally this is an income account, and it's interest received because they owe you interest. It's not actually on that invoice itself. If they do end up paying you, for example, 3,200 Rand, but they only owed you 3,000 on the invoice, the 200 is the interest. The 200 will go into your interest received, and the 3,000 will go to pay off that invoice. That'll go to your sales. You don't want that interest to now also show on your sales because it's going to overinflate your sales. So although the full 3,200 will write to your customer control account, and you will see that payment on your customer detailed ledger, what will happen is only 3,000 will go to the sales account to pay off that sale, and the other 200 will go to your interest received. You don't want your gross profit to be affected because this is interest that they owe you. So you enter your interest account. As I said, income account, normally we use the interest received. And then you enter the annual percentage. So per year, what would you charge this person? What are you saying? Okay, per year, I'm going to charge 24%. What does that 24% mean, guys? I'm so sorry about my WhatsApp constantly coming up. I did ask people to stop messaging me. It's a church thing. So everyone's responding on that group. So please ignore it to the best of your ability. Basically, this is a percentage, but if we divide that by 12, that means that what you're doing is you're charging them 2% per month. Now, over and above that, you can go, you know what, if someone has short paid you by R5, you might be like, you know what, I'm not really going to follow that up with them and keep charging interest and keep charging interest. The reason why you're going to put in a minimum interest amount is because if the customer, for example, they believe that they paid their invoice and maybe they missed it by 50 cents or by R5 or even by 20 Rand. If that customer has completely disappeared, you've emailed them, said to them, look, there's a slight shortfall, you know, pop into the shop or can you just EFT this money, whatever, and they're not responding to you. They've gone, you know what I paid, I'm done. It's not correct, but there are customers that do that. You probably at the end of the year are going to have a look at your accounts and you're going to decide, okay, who am I handing over? Or looking at your terms, you're going to decide, okay, I'm going to give you from where you exceed your terms, I'm going to give you 3 months or I'm going to give you 6 months in which to settle this account. If you don't, I normally will hand you over. I'm going to hand you over to the debt collectors. I will sell them your debt, however that works, I have no idea. And basically, you then are going to you're going to write a lot of that off to bad debts. If you can go through an attorney and you can recover that stuff, great. That's fantastic. You're happy. But it needs to be a value that is worth you doing that. So under a certain value, paying the attorney to do this on your behalf or the debt collection company on your behalf, probably $20 is not going to be worth it. So charging interest on that might not be worth it either. It's going to be easier for you to just write off the 20 Rand. Yes, it means that you're liable for that because it goes in as an expense. But that's where you need to decide, okay, where do I cut this off? Okay, I'm going to cut it off at 500. From 500, anything over 500, I am going to now start charging interest. And this is something that you then will do. And then the entry type is your customer journal, because that's what we're doing. And then you can choose, do I want the system to warn me if my customer is overdue? Now, of course, this is a good thing. If your customer is overdue, whether they have reached that shortfall or not, if they owed you $20 and they now come in and buy something else and they're overdue, you're going to think twice about actually helping them. They phone you up, oh, I've got this huge order, whatever. You might decide, okay, is this worth it or not? Because last time they short paid me. Or it might just be a conversation to have. Oh, hey, I've been trying to get hold of you. You know, your account was short paid by it's not a lot of money. It's $20, but I have been trying to get hold of you and I haven't been able to. So sure, we can do this order, but I do need you to please also pay that. And then you can put that promise to pay on the system or whatever it is. Or you might choose it's not worth it. The order is big enough. Let's see if they short pay you this time, whatever it is. So having that overdue warning is useful to you and to your employees to go, hang on, this is a customer that often comes in and often they're not paying on time. There's a problem. Do we need to adjust the terms? Yeah, Mr. Client, of course we can fulfill this order. However, this is going to be a cash on delivery. Oh, I thought that I had 30 days in which to pay you. Oh, I'm so sorry. We've adjusted our terms and we're now actually doing cash on delivery. So I can absolutely fulfill that, but not on 30-day or not on 60-day or 90 or whatever it is. This informs you of how to manage that account because you're here to make money. You're not here to be charitable. This is your business. You want to make money. So that will give you an idea of, hey, how am I handling this? I'm telling them that it's cash on delivery. There's none of this 30-day thing. I need to go into that account and I need to remove that. Or, oh yeah, sure, I can fill that. You've got 7 days in which to pay the order and then it will be delivered to you. You know, or you can say, yeah, you've got 30 days, but we only deliver after payment. Because if they short pay you, then you go, oh, you short paid us, so I'm only delivering this many because that's what you paid for. Whatever it is. So that can be really useful. And then we click on OK. Now, what happens if we do have customers? And I just want to make sure that I do. That's why I'm going to a detailed ledger. I might need to go update that batch. But what happens if we do have customers that are overdue? How do we use that? So I'm going to just check what's happening in my periods. Do I have anything in March? Yeah, cool. Okay, so I've got some amounts in March, and they're definitely over 500. So basically what happens is this is a manual process you will do. It'll be part of your month end, but you're going to go into process, and you're going to go to overdue customer interest. And we're going to enter that overdue customer interest, and you're going to go next. Now, if I had to process this now and these invoices fell in March, probably nothing's going to happen. But if, for example, I had to go to, so that's obviously the last period, there will be something because I checked March 22. But let's say I processed this in March 22 and those invoices were processed in March 22. When we get to the end, it may say 0 adjustments made. That's because they're not overdue yet. They have to be overdue. But the beautiful thing here is if a customer's not overdue, if it's not past their terms, they're not going to be charged that interest. So with my setup, you have to be past your terms and your balance has to be over 500 Rand or you're going to be excluded. If I now process this, for example, for August, and I go next, it's going to go and look what invoices are outstanding. Are they overdue? And what does it need to charge? Now, it's only going to charge 2% here. So it charges 2% per month. That increases as you go. So if I charge this for August, no customers have had interest charged. So I would need to go and check, why is that? Because I'm pretty sure that that should have worked. Sorry, guys, that's why I say this is important. Otherwise, I'm just going to go process an invoice quick. Just want to actually make sure if I do have invoices that are in the current month. Okay, that is May. Oh, okay, sorry guys, there are actually payments in here. Might have helped if I had done that, because obviously these will then go towards those different options. So receipt, yeah, these are actually processed even in March. There is still an amount owing, but I might need to quickly just create an account that has nothing in it because I do want to show this to you correctly. So let's go create a customer together very quickly. And we're going to call them customer A. We're going to put them on current terms. And I'm going to save that. Then I'm going to quickly go and process a tax invoice. I think my enhanced search is on. Yes, it is. Select customer A. Payment due date, saying 28th of Feb 2023. Yeah, I'm not going to process in 23 because this is not the company I ran my year end in. So I'm going to process this on the 15th of March 22. I can change my payment due date. So this is also when I'm telling my customer that this is due. Sorry, that was March, not Feb, my bad. end of March. And then I'm going to quickly do an item. Just give me a sec. And there we see our amount, so 4,250. Good thing this said date out of period. So guys, if that comes up, what do? We need to go and check our period. It says period 12, which would be February 23. And I go to March 22. Because I've done this, it's going to remove my items, or it's going to readjust my items accordingly. And the reason it does that is because when you select those items, it looks at that item and checks that it is in fact available for that period. So you may need to delete it, come in, make sure your period is correct, and then we can select our date again. So that's important, and that's how we resolve that problem. If you are importing your lines though, and you did forget about the period, it's going to import incorrectly, and that's a whole different thing to fix and requires reversals. So again, we check 4250, we move to the next line. We're not told out of period. We say next, and at this point, this is going to be a batched invoice. So if we go check, we can check that we've got batched invoices here, because I don't update on completion, so I still need to go batch update. Little tip with year end coming, if you delete tax invoices and you're in batch mode, you still have to update those 0 invoices, or the system will still say that you have open batches. So we update those invoices, and then we're going to go and check that specific customer. So I'm going to do it specifically for customer A. I'm pretty sure I have supplier invoices, but this is why we're doing this, to make sure that that worked. Okay, March to March. And there are tax invoices. Now we know there's no payments. Now again, if we go process, overdue customer interest, we know that it's going to look through all customers. So as you can see, it also increments. So interest was last calculated for August. So this is going to increment as you go. So let's run it for September. You can go back if you really want to and go, okay, that didn't work. I fixed what was wrong. Let's go see what happens now. Okay, clearly I've done something wrong, and I'm actually not sure what I've done wrong. Sorry, guys. Normally that works perfectly fine. So it's meant to go one customer was affected. Customers, control. This is annoying me now. Interest 24, 500, customer journal, warn if overdue. I'm going to change that to 0. That's worrying me because that should have worked. Statement, default description, no, there's nowhere else to set that up. Okay, guys, it's something I'll raise with development, because the fact that you put an amount there should not be a problem, and we know that that customer was over 500. I do apologize about that. You should be able to put a minimum value there, and that would have been 500. So I do apologize. Guys, I see a raised hand. Is there a question? Or were you just trying to show me where I possibly went wrong? The good thing is we found something that isn't working the way it should. What we do is we call this a defect. Based on that defect, I can now take this to development and go, guys, when setting this up, I set it this way, and this is what happened. Either I did something wrong, or the system isn't working the way it should. So I do see the raised hand. If you could please use the question icon, question mark in the speech bubble, you will have to type what you need to tell me, because I unfortunately don't know what the raised hand means. So thank you for that. But I need you to please use the question icon. So if you can just let me know why your hand is raised, that would be fantastic. If it's a question, that's perfectly fine. You can please send that through to me. Guys, I'm going to give us a minute or two to get that question. Is the customer account set to no interest? I'm so sorry. Apparently, that's what I did wrong. Let me go check that. Sorry, guys. Maybe it's not a dev thing. Maybe that's just me being silly. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I probably did do that. You're absolutely right. Guys, this is a very important part that I actually skipped over completely. Thank you so much to the person that told me that. You need to please select your interest from. If you set to none, it's not going to charge interest. I can't believe I forgot that. Thank you so, so much. Guys, even someone with 14 years experience can completely forget these things. That is absolutely correct. So interest from, I completely missed that. I don't know where my mind was. Please make sure that's also set up correctly. You need to say when you're charging interest from. So 1 period after terms, 30 days, 90 days, 60 days, etc. And please save that accordingly. Thank you so, so much. So it's not a dev thing. Let's go put that back. It is a user error. Thank you to the specialist who helped me, because that is what you now are. You are now a specialist. That is fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So let's put that back, because that was there for a reason. So guys, if that happens, now we know a common reason why that can happen and something that's commonly overlooked. Please check on your customer and make sure that you did set when they should be charged interest from. And let's go run that again. So that was processed in March. So technically, if I select April, it should run. May. It definitely should run for May, because I said 1 period after. Okay. View customers. I just want to make sure that it is showing as overdue. Screen every customer according to their payment terms. Yeah. Let's go May. Okay, so that is 2 terms overdue. That interest should have run. It is possible that because I ran it with 0, it may have actually run, and I may have messed it up. So I do apologize. View customers, detailed ledger by customer. It should have still worked though. Actually got it there. No, so it hasn't run against it at all. Guys, I'm just going to go double check that that account is now set up correctly. Okay. It's not out of period processing. Okay, guys, I'm actually not sure why this isn't working, and this is obviously frustrating me because it should be working. Basically, what should happen though, since I'm going to have to probably play with this data set, this does happen in certain data sets where for some reason it doesn't work, and possibly there's something within the demo that's not working correctly. You are meant to run the assistant, and ultimately what should come up is that it should tell you that that interest has been charged. So I'm just going to wait until it actually tells me that someone has had interest charged. Either that or it is the 500. So something was charged in November to at least show you a report of what that looks like. Ultimately, this is what you want to see. So basically what it does is it does a customer journal. It gives it its own reference that is unique, and then it works out that interest for you based on the 2%, and that will then compound. So the next time we run it, it's now going to have a compound. So they owed 34,500 and it added 614 to it. The next time we run, it's going to base it on this total. And it's going to continue doing that until the customer either pays you, or if they do pay you a portion, it will then bring it down and it'll keep working the interest based on what is still overdue. And that's what it's meant to do. So that's basically how it looks when it works. And then, as I said, a way to obviously, if we're having the problem, because I'm happy to do this with you guys, that's what it should look like. That's how you set up your interest. And then, as we said, when that one specific customer, when we looked at it, it said 90 days after. So if we look at Abbott Limited, if we look at the terms, interest from 90 days. So we can change it and go one period after terms instead, and then it should charge it better than 90 days. But 90 days had to lapse before it starts charging them. So for example, you can do that as well. You could, for example, turn around and you could say what you want to do is you want to turn around and tell them that you want to only start charging interest at 90 days or at 120 days. So you give them a much longer time in which to pay you before interest is charged, or you can start charging them interest 1 month after it's not paid, but you take 6 months in which to actually hand them over. It's entirely up to you. Then apparently the minimum interest amount is the amount of interest, not the amount payable. Okay, that's interesting. I must be honest, even working with Pastel for this many years, maybe it's because I never put a minimum amount. I always understood that to actually be, sorry guys, it does say minimum interest amount. My apologies. It's not minimum. I always understood that as actually being the total. So I only want to charge interest from 500 up. Apologies. This is how much interest. If the amount is above X, then do you charge interest? So yeah, basically you can go, I don't want it to charge interest. The interest needs to be 15 Rand or up before I see that. It'll work it out. If the interest is less than 15 Rand, it won't charge it apparently. And I learned something new today. I actually always understood that as meaning the overdue amount, That's not what it means. So I apologize. This means what is the minimum interest amount that you wanted to process. So honestly, leave it as 0 rather. I do think the other way makes more sense. It's something that I will raise with my dev team, because I would prefer to put a minimum overdue amount and go, do not charge interest on amounts that are less than this, personally. So I'll definitely raise that as a suggestion, but that actually means exactly what I've said. Thank you again to the attendee that went and checked that and figured it out for me. I'm sorry, I've always understood that wrong. So it shows you can be an expert in Pastel and work with Pastel for 14 years and still learn something. So that's really cool to know. So let's check if that works now, because I'm going to put it at 0, quite frankly. And hopefully in April, we should see interest being charged. So you would do this every single month, and what you should be seeing is what you're seeing now. It's going to keep telling you how many customers are being charged. And then if we go and view that detailed ledger, exactly what I said would happen there should be happening. So let's view it for the whole year. But then if we go and look at that customer of ours, guys, I'm actually just going to run it for that specific customer, because there's very little in that customer, so we won't get confused between receipts and everything. But here we can see they are charged 85.01. The next time, a charged 86.71, because it needs to include 4,250 plus the 85.01. And so we can see that the interest is climbing because this customer has not paid throughout those months. So it's going to keep adding this little bit of interest on, and they're going to keep owing more and more. So at this point, they could have paid their 4,250, but they're going to have to pay us 400 Rand plus, well, minus, slightly less than, so 350 basically. Extra, because they didn't pay on time. And there you'll see that it gives all unique reference numbers. And when the client pays this amount, if this is open item, you then should be able to go and process your match open item, and you should be able to process against those interest values, because you need those to be paid. You need to know that they are paid, and that them being paid, that there's nothing overdue. So they're going to show like an invoice would. And you can then, so if they had to pay the full 4,600, you would allocate to the actual document itself. There is still going to be money owing, that extra 350, and you're going to take that 350 and you're going to drag it to each one so that they all say 0.00 owing. And then that will also stop the interest from constantly being charged. Now, guys, I do need to ask, because I confused myself with not understanding that one field. And again, my sincerest apologies. Have I confused anyone else, or are we all now on the same page? And again, thank you so much to the attendee who went and checked that and figured it out. You are absolutely right. I don't know why for the last 14 years I've assumed that differently. Guys, are we on the same page? Do we understand what all the options mean? Do we all know how this customer interest now works, how we run it, the purpose of it? And are we all in agreement that I need to log a suggestion to have a minimum overdue amount added? Please let me know in the question icon. If I have confused you, I'm happy to create a new company and start from scratch. Please let me know. I'm either type Joe, it's cool with you now, or understand or something. If not, please just let me know. And if the answer is please start at the beginning, happy to do so. I'm going to give us a couple of minutes for you to type that out in the question icon, little question mark in the speech bubble, right-hand side, so that I know where we're tracking. If you have any other questions though, please feel free to ask those as well. So if you're kind of with us, but you're having a problem, feel free to ask. Thank you. Cool. So guys, I've gotten 2 all goods. Is everyone else all good, or have I confused anyone? Because I really don't want to have had confused anyone. And as I said, I'm really sorry about that. Okay, guys, it looks like everyone's actually happy. Everyone understands how that works, and everyone understands why it works. Hopefully, we're all in agreement with that suggestion, because I'm logging it. I think it would be a really cool thing to have, because there are times where you don't want interest charged on those small values for the reason that I said, which is why I think in my head I made that mistake. Not that that's an excuse, but I do think that would be a really cool thing to have. Obviously, on those small amounts, you do have the option of going into that customer, and this is how you would manage it at this point, is you'd have to go into that customer, know that they only owe you a small amount, and you would need to change it to none. So you would need to go, please don't charge interest on this 5 Rand or 20 Rand. That's how you would handle it right now. But I do think that to have to do that for each and every customer, check if there's a small amount owing, the suggestion would be nicer to just have a tick that goes, only charge interest on customers over X amount. But you do have that option of changing it this way, and that would be the workaround for now. So it's not critical, because I think this is the way that they set it up to work. They're going, if there are those small amounts, just change it to none. My thing is, if you have 5,000 clients and you've got to sit each and every month and double check that there are no little amounts and you changing them to none or putting them back to their, one period after terms, etc., that can be very time consuming. It would be far more efficient to have a tick that goes, listen here, if their overdue amount is less than 1,000, I don't want to charge interest on them. It's cool. Or if they're less than 50, whatever it is. So that's just for efficiency reasons that I think that would be cool. Guys, then what we're going to just quickly chat about is some people are happy, some people are not happy, but for those of you that aren't aware, our chat now goes into our live bot. So this has been released, and if you do need to chat, the chat hasn't disappeared, guys. It's not now a case of, oh no, I absolutely have to go through this. If you need to, you can just type chat and enter, and what it should do is it should bypass all of these options. It'll tell you, kindly note that our chat department is available Monday to Friday. You can click on connect, and what it's going to do is it's going to ask you to click here. Guys, it is also going to go, is this answer helpful? Yes, no. You can ignore this and just click on the click here and fill in your details accordingly. Here's where you can enter your name, your email, your customer number, and you can start the chat. If you really want to, you can say no. It's then going to take you through entering your email and everything here and connecting you from here in the chat. So it's up to you, but the simplest way would just be click here, go to the link, enter your details, and you're in the chat. If, however, you do in fact want to make use of for heaven's sakes, the live bot, this bot is available 24/7. So with the bot being available 24/7, our live chat is only available from 8 to 4. Okay, I need to go do an efficiency there because somehow my menu isn't coming up. Guys, when you see things like this, that's where you absolutely say no to me. I receive those reports. So I can absolutely receive the reports on what's happening, and I can go and check what's happening with the alt answers. Basically, the bot is not necessarily a very smart bot. Unfortunately, it does mean that there's a lot of input that needs to occur. So I would pull this report, and I'm telling you guys this because I want you to understand what's happening. and I want to make sure the spot works the way you need it to. So I do ask just for a little bit of understanding. I pull this report. I can check this report and drill down on things. I then go and check what you've entered. If you've entered something like that menu and it didn't work, what I then do is I go into my language studio and I go and I check, okay, based on my language studio with my welcome menu, what is happening there? Is this an alternative question? And if it's not an alternative question, I will add it as an alternative question. Please be aware when using the bot though, if it is after hours or if you do prefer to use it, please make sure that, guys, if you do type a long message, like I am getting error, blah, 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 and it tells you it can't find it, maybe just try a keyword, for example, error code 20, something that is a little bit shorter and simple instead of I'm getting an error code 20 on my workstation when trying to access via the server. The chances are it's not going to find that because I have to physically program into the system those alternate questions. So I can add it later, but if I come here and I go to my error 20, that's probably not in my alternate questions because it's not something I would have asked. I ask things in a very quick way. Even in Google, I literally keyword type. So try keywords as well and just type something small like error 20, runtime 13, register, registration, single user, and then we can see what's happening. Otherwise, the alternative is to obviously follow the menu. So for example, here I can go, you know, I want the step-by-step, the knowledge base article, I want to watch the YouTube video. You can select those. Based on that, you will go through the different options. So here it's telling you all the different things that you need to check. So you might have to come back into the error 24, 5 different times to check, is the starting in Pastel correct? Is the Unicode UTF disconnected? Now I've put them in the most common solution because error 20 in this case has multiple. So the first thing, check your UAC. You've done that, it's off, it's not working. Is the correct version of Pervasive installed? I tell you how. Is .NET installed correctly? But these are the levels of, this is what works the most often, this is what works the least often. For example, more options, I go last steps. It goes, okay, if you've tried everything in all of those lists, uninstall, reinstall, re-register your Pastel program on all machines, you're reinstalling Pastel on, and then again, I take you there or I go, connect me to a chat agent. So here you can see if you do everything and it doesn't work, you're also advised to connect to a chat agent. So it's just working these things out and being able to come in, and here you can see the alt questions. So I'll add things, for example, using the on-hold assistant. How do I use the on-hold assistant? That should not be there. I'm just going to fix it because that's a typo. That should just be on-hold assistant. So guys, I'm trying to learn what you need, but as you can see, that's a manual thing. I then need to save it, and in the evenings I publish. So please bear with me. If you do see anything and you want to reach out directly to me, you've got my email. You can be like, hi Joe, I was in the chat, I noticed this, I didn't like it, or I feel there needs to be this here that's missing. Guys, I find that very helpful because I need to go make those videos, those knowledge base articles. I need to program the system, each little section, and I need to add those alternate questions. So any input from you to make this a success would be fantastic. But also, if it's not 100% where you want it, please bear with me and let me know that we are working on it in the background to make it as efficient and as user-friendly as possible for you. It is a very cool tool that can be used 24/7. So if chat's not available, it is there, and it does link to knowledge base and YouTube videos, which can be helpful. So if you go through the step-by-step, it's not really working, you can always go back and say, hey, let me actually watch that video. Maybe something wasn't clear in the way I wrote it, but the video can actually demonstrate it. or maybe you prefer the knowledge-based article that shows you all of the solutions instead of having to click on each one. Totally up to you. Our next webinar is going to be on the 7th of December, if I'm not mistaken, which is in 2 weeks. This is our last webinar for the year. And what it is it's an open webinar, guys. What an open webinar means is that if there are things that I have either not run, so I'm just going to go back into my go-to webinar. Sorry, guys, these are all the different programs I use. So this is the program that I use to run the webinars. And if you had to go through the list, so you will go through the registration page, you can see what we've run throughout the year. If there were questions that either weren't answered, or if I didn't actually go through one of the topics that you are interested in, and please make sure it's not the Sage Business Cloud Accounting topic, but it is in fact the Sage 50. So if we come into this and we have to check, we're looking for our Sage 50 details, basically. So where is my, if we go into registrations, share events. Sorry guys, just to show you the exact same page you're going to see. This is normally where you would go to register for these events. The top ones are for the accounting version, Sage Business Cloud Accounting. It is for this program. Hopefully will come up shortly. So this is what I run on Tuesdays. You can also look at those topics and say, look, actually, Joe, you ran this for what we call Sage Business Cloud Accounting, but you didn't run it for 50. Would you be prepared to run it? Or if there are questions that weren't answered, so you can see the 50 are these ones, please come with those questions. But guys, if there's something specific, like a topic or a question, I am going to put my email in the chat. And just to make sure that I am 100% prepared, I ask that you just send them through to me. Obviously, I try to be as prepared as possible. I did do prep work for today, but I never entered a value into that minimum interest amount. So for me, everything worked, and I thought, let's show you guys how this part works, and then that bombed out. So I should have double checked that. But if you could just let me know any topic or question that you have to make sure that I have the answer, because it's an open webinar, that does mean me answering on the spot. If I answer on the spot, not worried about that, totally okay to admit I don't know, as you've seen. And it might mean that I need to quickly go ask one of my counterparts, have you ever come across this? Do you know how to do this thing? Are you aware of this issue? And getting feedback from them, or I might need to ask you if we can take it offline, which means me emailing you the answer. So it is more useful if you can just let me know, hey, I've always wanted to learn this, or hi, about this specific topic. This is a question I have. I've watched the recording. You didn't answer it. Could you let me know? And then that's what we're going to be doing on the 7th. If you don't have any topics or questions, we come in, no one asks anything, no one suggests anything. Guys, what I'm probably going to chat about then is year end. One, your actual physical festive season, you closing your offices if you are, what that can contribute to, because there can be specific errors that we always see in January, ways to avoid those, as well as those of you where you run March to Feb, year end is fast approaching. What do you need to start prepping for? What do you need to be aware of? That's probably what I will do in that, because those are things that are coming up in pertinence. January will be posted in the December newsflash that'll go out, but we will probably only run one January webinar. And the reason for that, guys, is because most people only come back when the schools go back. And to my knowledge, the schools are only going back on the 18th. So I'm probably going to run a webinar in the 25th to the 29th. So basically the 26th and 28th. And then in February, we're going to go, sorry guys, where am I? There we go, January, not December. Sorry, the 22nd to the 26th. That's where I'm going to be running. I thought I was on January. And then in February, guys, that is where we're going to start doing our year-end stuff. March, I'm probably only going to be running either processing a year-end and year-end errors. It's probably going to be run twice a week for 50 and probably twice a day. So like I'll run it on a Tuesday and a Thursday, but I'll run like how to process a year-end in the morning, and then I'll do year-end errors in the afternoon. On a Thursday, I'll do year-end errors in the morning, and I'll do how to process a year-end in the afternoon. And that is going to run weekly across the whole of March, and then probably the first week of April. I then normally go on leave from the second week of April until the beginning of May, because I too need leave. I am hoping I will have someone who can also help me with these. So you might not only hear from me and see me, you might also be hearing from one of my counterparts. Their training I'm going to be doing in December with them, in which case there might be no break at all. Hopefully that's all the news that I have for you. Hopefully the session was helpful eventually, and hopefully you guys have a wonderful and fantastic day, a wonderful weekend, and I will see you at the 7th of December. If you have any questions, guys, you can send them to me now. I will leave this webinar open until about 10:55. I will address anything that comes through. If at 10:55 I haven't had any comments or any other questions, I will then close the webinar for everyone. If you don't have any questions, then I'm also happy if you exit the session. Again, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend, and I will see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.